Welcome back to Strayatrains. In this video we're going to take a look at the ins and the outs of the Frankston Line. First up, a quick overview of the line. It is served by Metro's Comenge, Siemens and Extrapolis fleet, and soon in the future the Extrapolis 2.0s. The line code is FKN. It is a total of 29 stations long and 20 of them lie on the Frankston Line exclusively. The Frankston Line serves the southeastern suburbs of Victoria and is part of the cross-city group given the colour green on our railways map. Service terminations include Moorabbin, Cheltenham, Mordialloc, Carrum and Frankston. For service alterations, sometimes stations such as Caulfield can be used as a termination station. We'll now take a look at service notes starting off in the city. Frankston's trains typically use platform 8 at Flinders Street, but can also use platforms 7, 9, 12, and sometimes the rare platform 4, generally speaking. Most trains, however, do continue towards Werribee, Laverton or Williamstown as it is part of the cross-city group, meaning Frankston services do not utilise the city loop, only Flinders Street and Southern Cross Station. Regarding stopping patterns, every second train in the peak PM is actually a limited express that stops all to South Yarra, runs express from South Yarra to Caulfield, Caulfield to Cheltenham, then stops all to Frankston. Regarding the peak AM, it is the exact same limited express service pattern but in the opposite direction. This then leads to a frequency rate of off-peak at every 10 minutes, during peak every 4 to 6 minutes roughly, at night time 20 minutes, during the weekend back to that 10-minute frequency, and then during night weekend network being a roughly 60-minute frequency on the Frankston Line. Now time for some travel tips, starting off during peak times. If you're travelling to a station that express trains stop at, take that train as you'll overtake the stops all service in front of it due to the track triplication between Caulfield and Moorabbin, which will shave time off your journey. However, it is important to know that this only works if you're travelling in the correct way of direction, so in the peak AM towards the city, and then in the peak PM from the city. Another tip, but just for the peak AM, be mindful that if you're travelling on a down train that is towards Frankston, those trains depart from platform 3 between Glenhuntly and Moorabbin in the peak morning. Otherwise, all trains towards Frankston will depart from platforms 2 at these stations. And finally, a third tip, if you're travelling on a city-bound train and want to travel into the city loop, it is best to change at Melbourne Station as it is much easier and quicker to switch platforms. However, this can only be done at the time of day where Pakenham and Cranbourne are stopping at Melbourne. If they are not stopping at Melbourne, it's best to go to Caulfield as up Pakenham and Cranbourne trains run express through Armadale, Toorak and Hawkesbury, which means you'll save a few minutes off your journey. However, this is only between the peak AM and PM times on weekdays and similar times on weekends where you can actually switch at Melbourne. So during the peak times or at early morning or late at night, it is best just to switch at Caulfield Station. In terms of the future proposals and plans for the Frankston Line, it appears that it will be level crossing free by the year of 2029, assuming everything runs to plan, which is very good news. However, one level crossing that I think should be changed in terms of its design is the two level crossings at Mordialloc Station, one on either end of the station. This is because the level crossing on the down end in Bear Street, which is where the Mordialloc yards are, will actually be removed as a road for good, and only the level crossing on the up end will remain for car traffic. As a result, I do think that by just closing a road is almost like a cop-out. It isn't really removing it in a sense, it's just getting rid of the road, which hurts car users. As a solution, maybe if Mordialloc Station was to be built via a trench instead of the planned Skyrail, and the yards to be lowered to a little bit lower underground than on the current ground level, you can keep the yards and both level crossings. Of course, this is just my idea, and maybe there is more of a specific reason as to why Mordialloc Station is going as a Skyrail, but this is just one idea. Next up, a proposal is to put the points on the down end of Caulfield Station back in place to allow for Frankston-bound trains or up Frankston trains to use platforms 3 and 4 at Caulfield and divert to the Frankston tracks from there if there are any delays or disruptions between the city and Caulfield Station on the typical Frankston tracks. This just allows for a little bit more timetable flexibility, as if there is a disruption now, Frankston trains must terminate at Caulfield and originate from Caulfield, meaning customers for the Frankston line between the city and Caulfield will need to use a Pakenham and Cranbourne train, meaning they will need to switch trains for their journey, which is sometimes a little bit frustrating and also does create overcrowding on the Pakenham and Cranbourne trains between the city and Caulfield. And to conclude, rather than a cool story, it'd be interesting to mention, with the knowledge that we know of all the level crossings that are expected to take place on the Frankston line until 2029, it is now a great opportunity with many years in advance to just take photos and snap up any level crossing you see on the Frankston line, because come 2030, we will never see a level crossing again on the Frankston line, meaning that is history all in the books, and there's only one way to keep history and maintain it, and that is to snap it up whilst you have the opportunity to. We have a number of years now to do it, so my tip is, if you do want to snap a little bit of guaranteed history within the next few years, go ahead and do that, because the last thing you want to do is certainly regret not taking a photo of it. And that brings us to the end of yet another Ins and Outs episode, this time the ins and the outs of the Frankston line. Hope you enjoyed and learned a thing or two about the operation of the Frankston line, and I think we'll leave it at that. Cheers.